My work ethic wasn't mistaken for ambition. It was mistaken for consent. Basically, I'm the kind of overperformer that was handed anxiety, a never-ending to-do list, and a lust for burnout. And the world clapped, because it always claps for people that make dysfunction look functional. I'm Sheila. I am not a coach or a guru. I'm just a midlife menace with opinions, a 30-year corporate career, and bras that I refuse to wear. I have lived through corporate chaos, plot twists in my mental health, and full-blown menopause. So at this point, I'm not giving advice. I'm giving away evidence. I'm mostly talking about work today, but let's be honest. If you do this there, you're going to be doing it everywhere. I learned that being the go-to person is just a polite way of saying we'll go to you until you collapse. I thought I was proving my worth, but all I was proving was how easy it was to use me. I'm the free sample that never runs out. Overperforming wasn't about ambition. It was a compulsion. I didn't even know that enough was an option. At work, I would consistently go above and beyond, sprinting laps around others that were just coasting and calling it in. And they kept handing me more, assuming that my hard work was consent for more. And before anyone gets a little skeezy about the word consent, I mean the kind that looks like competence, but feels an awful lot like resentment. Consent for exploitation, consent for being used, consent for being the cleanup crew, consent for being punished for being capable, consent for everything except uninterrupted PTO. And it was in the same way that being trapped under a car counts as volunteering to hold it up. They called it a strong work ethic. It was really just implied consent. And there's so many of us that are so damn consistent about renewing it. Stick around and we'll talk about what that's really costing you. Now, a real work ethic means showing up, doing your job well, and knowing where that ends. You care about the work, but you don't become the work. You know your limits and you stick to them. But here's how it happens for an overperformer. You start with a little extra. You fix someone else's mess, stay an hour late, answer one more email. No big deal. You're proud of it. You like being the reliable one. That's the gateway drug, isn't it? Reliability. One hit and you're the office's unpaid emotional support animal. I was a raccoon, digging through everyone's mess, living off caffeine and other people's leftovers. They called it dedication. I think it was actually rabies. If something was broken, I fixed it. If no one volunteered, I did. Somebody had to. My reflex was yes. My blood type was also yes. You could probably test my DNA and find a little faint watermark that says, I'll handle it. I was the person who'd say, I can do that before my brain even ever caught up. Apparently, my mouth had a loyalty program that my sanity didn't sign up for. You start thinking, if I don't do it, it won't get done, and it certainly won't get done right or on time or on budget. That's not pride. You've just turned yourself into the office defibrillator, just shocking life back into shit. Then it sticks. You stop doing extra and start doing everything. That's the moment that your capacity gets mistaken for availability and your availability gets read as consent. Congratulations, you've been promoted to the unofficial safety net for everyone else's mediocrity. And it doesn't stop at work. If you're built like this, you end up running your whole life that way too, without even thinking about it. That's some hardwired crap right there. The reward is that you become reliable, which only means that you do shit when you shouldn't. And when you finally start to break, they tilt their heads and ask if you're okay. That's the performance review of the damned. Burnout framed as a wellness check. Once in a one-on-one, my boss asked me how I was really doing. I said, honestly? And then he kind of sat back and squinted his eyes and said, well, maybe not. I remember staring at my inbox once and thinking, this isn't even work anymore, it's triage. Half the emails were emergencies that I didn't cause, the other half were thank yous that I didn't believe. And still, some idiot said, oh God, you just care so much. No, I don't. I'm just too responsible to let your incompetent, calling it in mess explode in my direction. That's what overperformers do. We don't save the day because we're noble. We save it because, God forbid, we let stupid win. Somewhere along the line, you realize that you never agreed to this. You just forgot that you could resist. But truly, why are we like this? What broke in us that makes this all feel so normal? Overperforming looks confident. It looks capable. But for me, it was never about achievement. It was about staying needed. It's the kid who learned that being useful kept the peace. It's the adult who thinks that rest is dangerous, who thinks slowing down means slipping. And when you're wired like that, exploitation doesn't look like abuse. It looks like opportunity. You keep telling yourself they need me. Yeah, honey, like a parasite needs a host. If they needed me, I was safe. That's what it felt like. I watched someone's cat one time. And after that, they just assumed that I'd always do it. No heads up. They would just kind of call and be like, yo, I'm taking off this weekend. I'll leave the key under the mat. And I did it every single time. That's the kind of consent that I'm talking about. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. Like Pavlov's little burnout dog, hear a crisis bell and start drooling purpose. Do you ever work from home and hear that Teams ding or Slack ping and you're suddenly sprinting through your house like a pug that heard the cheese package open? She sprints for cheese, I swear. Every time someone said, oh, Sheila, you don't have to. Well, that felt like an accusation. Every time someone says, oh, well, you've done enough. That sounded like a dare. Here's the thing. Enough was never the goal. Enough was a threat. Enough was a freaking slur. Does that sound familiar? What's something that overperforming has cost you, and why do you think you keep doing it? I'll see you in the comments where I read every single one. Now, I grew up thinking that I could fix anything, people, problems, even silence. If something hurt, you work harder. If someone left, you fill the space with tasks. It was emotional spackle disguised as a work ethic. Do you ever wonder why you do it and why you can't seem to stop? The world runs on people like us, high capacity, high functioning, guilt-driven perfectionists who confuse competence with worth. We're the ones holding the entire circus together while being pummeled by wellness emails from the Employee Culture Committee. Because the second that you show that you can carry it, they stop asking if you want to. That's how work ethic becomes consent. Silence mistaken for yes, exhaustion mistaken for pride. What I've learned in my life and career is that overperformers all seem to share the same wiring that's fed with this fear-based fuel. We don't run towards something good. We're running away from what happens if we stop. We find safety through our usefulness. If we aren't needed, it feels like a rejection. If no one's leaning on us, well, something must be wrong. We feel guilty for resting. We don't just think that we have to earn it. We think that we have to apologize for it. And when we finally do it, it feels like failure. Meanwhile, Posey over here naps for 16 hours a day and still manages to wake up and be irritated with me because I'm trying to get her to eat something. Now, I live with anxiety and depression, and some days I just can't handle it. And by it, I mean everything. I can't answer your text. I can't laugh at the meme you sent me. I can't put my earring pile away or change the toilet paper roll. And I feel bad, like somehow I failed at being a person. But if you ask me for something, oh, heck yeah, I'm in. I'm there. I did the same thing at work. I'd hit send on a happy to help email knowing full well that I was running on empty. But if I didn't do it, it would fall through the cracks. I know it. And then I'd blame myself for that too. That's why when they hand you another project, another problem, another quick favor, you don't say no. You say thank you. Because somewhere along the way, you learn that overworking wasn't exploitation. It was affection. And for me, the big one is that compliments don't land as appreciation. They are just a sly backdoor way that someone's giving me a new expectation. It's not control freak in the bossy sense. It's control as safety. When everything's unpredictable, competence becomes a life raft. You can't control who leaves, who fails, who disappoints you, but you can control how fast you move, how much you fix, and how little that you need. That's why overperformers look so responsible on the outside, but they're so terrified underneath. It's this feeling of if I hold it all together, maybe nothing else will fall apart. When you're wired like this, exploitation doesn't look like abuse. It looks like approval. It feels like belonging. But it's not. It's not. That wiring runs deep. You just can't turn it off because someone says, oh, you don't have to do it all. That sentence doesn't compute, right? It's like telling this caffeinated raccoon just to calm down. No, sir, I will not calm down. You know, in the history of telling people to calm down, no one has ever calmed down. We know this. Why do we keep saying it? Every "you've done enough, Sheila" sounds just like someone saying you could have done more, Sheila. Every "take a break" felt like someone telling me, you're slipping. And the longer you play that game, the more your work ethic starts to look like a contract that you never signed. They take your lack of boundaries as permission, your silence as consent, and your burnout as proof of loyalty. Here's the big question. Can any of this be fixed? You might think that I sound like a control freak, but honestly, it's not about control. It's about reflex. It's about stepping in, because if you don't, it breaks and you'll end up cleaning up the mess anyway. And the world took that reflex and they called it consent. So here's what I've learned about stopping. It is not a graceful process, no sir. It is awkward and uncomfortable, and you might even feel a little itchy. You will feel bad. But try this. Flip the script and say that you feel naughty instead, because naughty is fun. You don't fix overperformance by taking a break. You fix it by pulling back your consent. No more implied agreements, no more silent nodding, no more sure I can handle it. Stop being flattered by expectations that you never agreed to. Stop signing invisible contracts with your time, your peace, your weekends. You want to know what real control looks like? It's setting your boundaries and actually keeping them. It's recognizing that rest isn't irresponsible. It's not laziness. It's a necessary rebellion. It's saying, that's not my problem. Or if you want to go a little softer, say, not my circus, not my monkeys. And then don't fill in the silence that happens after you say that. Say no without explaining. Say I'm done without apologizing. People are going to blink at you and do that little head tilt thing again and say, are you okay? You've been different lately. Yes, Chad. Yes, I am. I am a reformed overperformer, revoking implied consent one boundary at a time. And if I ghost you, well, that's just me honoring my new terms and conditions. Because here's the thing. When you stop overperforming, that reflex doesn't disappear. It just looks for a new job. Mine became hope. Yep. The same wiring that made me overwork made me overhope. You spend half your life saying yes to prove that you're good, and the other half waiting for that goodness to pay off. It doesn't always happen that way. That's the next thing that I had to learn the hard way. What happens when hard work turns into hope, and hope turns into hell? We're going to talk about that here.